Rudolph is a busy guy. He has a heavy workload and spends all of his free time with his family. He's doing his best to live out the German dream of going east and settling in the country. But work wants him to transfer sites, and his wife Hedi wants to stay in Auschwitz. She invested a lot of time and effort into the garden. And of course, moving the children from their home would be harmful to their well-being. The transfer is political, and it's affecting a bunch of Rudolph's co-workers. He can't just call the Führer and ask to stay at his post. Content warning about the Holocaust. It's important to acknowledge that Rudolf Hess did exist. He did serve as the commandant of Auschwitz and oversaw the extermination of some 3 million people, mostly Jews. He was eventually hanged for his crimes. This film is based off of the book of the same name, which uses a fictionalized stand-in for Huss. Here, Jonathan Glazer uses Huss's name and details from his real life to bring him to the forefront. While the broad plot points of Huss's life are accurate, Glazer's characterization of him and his family is an artistic interpretation, and this analysis will be focused on Glazer's portrayal of these characters. Rudolph is possibly the most humanist portrayal of a literal Nazi in modern cinema. He really just wants to spend time with his kids in the woods. For someone with such an intense job, he's much more present for his children than his stay-at-home wife. He interacts with each of his kids in a meaningful way, while Hedi's out here trying on stolen lipstick as her baby cries and people are being shot on the other side of the wall. Rudolph also has a good relationship with animals. Before he gets transferred, he takes the time to say goodbye to his horse, and on his way to work at its new post, he makes a connection with the dog and its owner. The guy also has the gentlest voice, like the softest, sweetest voice.
Wie heißt er? Torin. Torin. Ja, man sieht nicht viel in seiner Farbe.
Rudolph's great tragedy is that, after all of his loyalty to his Führer and his country, he keeps getting tugged around. The absolute balls-out lie of the German dream, of moving east and living in the country, is a tremendous carrot to entice people to carry out a genocide. Rudolph takes his kids out for a day on the river only to find human remains polluting it. One of his daughters has trouble sleeping. As a show of dominance, his older son quite happily imprisons his younger son in the greenhouse. Family friends come for the summer and express delight in the guest book, yet everyone is exposed to the perpetual sounds of gunshots and screaming. Locking the house up for the night is a whole-ass thing. And when Rudolph is called to transfer over, Hedi refuses to leave, keeping the children with her in Auschwitz. Rudolph works his ass off. He does everything in his power to hold on to the dream of family life in the country, and it's still stripped away from him. But as he tells his children before being transferred,
Aber das Leben, das wir führen, ist dieses Opfer auf jeden Fall wert.
Hedi and Rudolph don't actually care about exterminating Jews. They're quite happy to benefit from the system that allows these atrocities to happen, but they're not preoccupied by hatred for the Jewish people. At one point, Hedi's Mutti clocks the servant girls as Jews, but Hedi's like, "No, they're just locals." Late in the film, Rudolph finds himself at a party with the elites of Nazi society. While he occasionally bumps into colleagues or does some networking, Rudolph largely spends the night wandering the massive venue alone. He's quite good at navigating work and rising through the ranks, but he doesn't want to spend time with these people. The scene is giving happy hour at a giant engineering firm. Ah, capitalism. Towards the end of the film, Rudolph calls home late after the party, excited to share the good news of his return to Auschwitz with Hedi. She could not give less of a fuck, and gets out of that conversation as quickly as possible to go back to bed. Rudolph's last few moments in the film are of him walking down a huge staircase, dry heaving. If you're being generous, you could say Rudolph's humanity finally caught up with him, that the sheer amount of human loss and suffering he's been tasked with has finally broken down his ability to compartmentalize. I'm not a very generous person. He's dry heaving because he's anxious about the massive workload, and it would be a terrible thing for him and his family to let down the big guy. You know, the classic capitalism-based reasons for dry heaving and anxiety. He doesn't care about Jews. He doesn't hate them, but he doesn't care about them. Dude's out here for himself. And as with chasing the American dream, chasing the German dream just leaves you a miserable cog in the sinister machinery. Hedi is a ridiculous character. Her entire being screams consumer horror. Have I mentioned capitalism yet? Here, Rudolph just got back from reading bedtime stories to their anxious daughter, and Hedi's all obsessed with returning to the Italian spa where they were pampered and met that nice couple. She's so vain. We get these scenes of nice Jewish clothing being objects of desire for Hedi and her friends. Jewish wealth is being destroyed and converted into a weird, envious consumption for those stealing it. Hedi's mutti was outbid on the curtains from her former employer's home. It's such a shame because those are really beautiful curtains. When Mutti comes to visit, Hedi shows off the house, the garden, their wonderful lifestyle. And Mutti is impressed. She spent at least part of her life as a servant to a wealthy Jewish woman, so seeing her daughter so well off in the Führer's new version of the world brings her pride. But the screaming, the gunshots, the blood reflected in the night sky, all of the horror next door is too much for Mutti, so she absconds before breakfast, leaving a note in her absence. Mutti can't handle the cognitive dissonance of having an Eden one wall over from hell. But Hedi can. Hedi can grow out her beautiful garden, and that lovely fur coat will surely block out all the screaming. While Rudolph sits at the head of the table and his wife does some performative childcare in his presence, Hedi really is the head of house. Here, Hedi and her girlfriends are talking about job opportunities at Siemens. She shoos Rudolph off to work, kicking him out of the house. And when it comes to Rudolph's transfer, he tells her that we have to leave. Her very ready and facile retort is, "No, you have to leave." She makes up some bullshit about raising the kids, and Rudolph doesn't even push against it. He merely replies that he never imagined being without them. In a system where her husband works long hours and there are servants in school to take care of the house and the children, Hedi is the one who comes out on top. Even then, she's a miserable cunt. As much as the sound design speaks to the horrors of the Nazi regime, there's plenty of rebellion going on in these little pockets of time. Marta is sneaking around the labor camp, leaving apples for prisoners and passing around notes and music compositions. There's also this shot of Aniela making herself so very small and unseen. Part of the apathy that Hedi and Rudolph perpetuate is that they don't care about the resistance, as long as they perceive that it doesn't affect them. People like the Husses let their guard down and allow the seeds of rebellion to take root. Apathy can work both ways. There are a few funny moments in the film, like this shot of Hedi in her pink bathrobe and this swastika eye sculpture. Fascism is rather boisterous. This line is hilarious to me.
Heil Hitler, etc.
All of the titles are too much even for bureaucrats. Everyone out here kissing Rudolph's ass because it's his birthday, and all of the "congratulations on doing such a good job of building gas chambers" stuff. I can't get over the capitalism of it all. This film does a really great job of capturing the experience of working at a huge company. And of course, Hedi's complete and utter rejection of leaving her house and accompanying her husband to his new position. I literally laughed out loud in the theater at this
Wir
moment.
müssen den Tatsachen ins Auge sehen. Wir müssen von hier fortgehen.
Nee, du musst von hier fortgehen.
Nobody laughed with me. Anyway, list all of the reasons you won't join me at my new post in the comments. Bye!